Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Prajanaranjana Yashodanandana Prajanaranjana Yamuna Tira Vana Chari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharya Ashtatra Shatashi Shemaz Vangase Si Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai New Govardhan Dham Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
That's what I thought. Okay. And you spoke on this verse, right? Okay. That's all right. So we are. So we should chant this one. Okay. All right. So it's Srimad Bhagavatam. All right. So Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, entitled "This Creation of the Fourth Order." Chapter 3 talks between Lord Shiva and Sati. So we're going to read 15 and 16 and 17. So tomorrow will be 18 for the scribe. Rishu Vacha Evam Giritra Pari Priya Yabi Bhashita Pratyabhyadatta Prahasan Surit Priyaha Sangsmarito Marma Bidaku Vagishun Yan ahako vishva srijam samakshataha Vishuvacha Evam Garitra Pariyabhibhashita Pratyabhyadatta Prahasansurit Priya Samsmarito marmo bidaku vagishun. Yan ahako vishwa srijam samakshataha. Okay. Vishu. All right, I'll just read the translation. Here. The great sage Maitreya said, Lord Shiva, the deliverer of the hill Kailas, having thus been addressed by his dear wife, replied smilingly, although at the same time he remembered the malicious, heart-piercing speeches delivered by Daksha before the guardians of the universal affairs. Okay, so take 16. The great Lord replied, My dear beautiful wife, you have said that one may go to a friend's house without being invited. And this is true, provided such a friend does not find fault with the guest because of bodily identification and thereby becomes angry towards him. Purport. Lord Shiva could foresee that as soon as Sati reached her father's house, her father, Daksha, being too puffed up because of bodily identification, would be angry at her presence, and although she was innocent and faultless, he would be mercilessly angry towards her. Lord Shiva warned that since her father was too puffed up by his material possessions, he would be angry, and this would be intolerable for her. Therefore it was better that she not go. This fact was already experienced by Lord Shiva because, although Lord Shiva was faultless, Daksha had cursed him with so many harsh words. Read one more. 17. Although the 6 qualities, education, austerity, wealth, beauty, youth, and heritage, are for the highly elevated, one who is proud of possessing them becomes blind, and thus he loses his good sense and cannot appreciate the glories of great personalities. Purport. It may be argued that since Daksha was very learned, wealthy, and austere, and had descended from a very exalted heritage, how could he be unnecessarily angry towards another? The answer is that when the qualities of good education, good parentage, beauty, and sufficient wealth are misplaced in a person who is puffed up by all these possessions, they produce a very bad result. Milk is a very nice food, but when milk is touched by an envious serpent, it becomes poisonous. Similarly, material assets such as education, wealth, beauty, and good parentage are undoubtedly nice, but when they decorate persons of a malicious nature, then they act adversely. Another example given by Chandaka Pandit is that a serpent that has a jewel on its head is still fearful because it is a serpent. A serpent by nature is envious of other living entities, even though they be faultless. When a serpent bites another creature, it is not necessarily because the other creature is at fault. It is the habit of the serpent to bite innocent creatures. Similarly, all the Daksha was qualified by many material assets. Because he was proud of his possessions, and because he was envious, all those qualities were polluted. It is sometimes therefore detrimental for a person advancing in spiritual consciousness or Krishna consciousness to possess such material assets. Kunti Devi, while offering prayers to Krishna, addressed him as Akinchana Gochara, one who is easily approached by those who are bereft of all material acquisitions. Material exhaustion is an advantage for advancement in Krishna consciousness. Although if one is conscious of his eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can utilize one's material assets. Such a great learning and beauty and exalted ancestry for the service of the Lord, then such assets become glorious. In other words, unless one is Krishna conscious, all his material possessions are zero. But when this zero is by the side of the Supreme One, it at once increases in the value to 10. Unless situated by the side of the Supreme One, zero is always zero. One may add 100 zeros, but the value will still remain zero. Unless one's material assets are used in Krishna consciousness, they may play havoc and degrade the possessor. Om Gyanti Varandasya Karanjana Shalakya Chakshudan Maditanmena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha Mukam Karivachalam Pangam Nangaite Kirim Yakripatam Hamvande Shri Gurun Diritanvam Vancha Kapavishcha Kripasandevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gauda Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 So did everybody have fun last night, the Comic-Con? I heard you went to the bar, huh? You went in the bar. Oh. It's just the guy outside that invited you in? Oh, really? Wow. You stayed for a few minutes. How were the people liking it in the bar? They liked it? Oh, yeah? That's funny. That was probably... Actually, we did that one time, I remember. I don't know if we arranged in advance, but we were downtown Harinam, and we went to a bar and we were dancing. Yeah, that might have been it. Yeah, that's nice. We can make friends with the bar owners and then they can invite us in every time. So in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, text 27, there's a very well-quoted verse. Prabhupada would quote this verse quite often. If anybody's interested, Javita Prabhu has a file, or whatever you call it, that lists all the different shlokas Prabhupada quoted and how many times we quoted, right? Is it top 180? Yeah, so 180 shlokas and how many times we quoted them. Probably Sarvadam and Pritchara, right? So one of those verses, I'm pretty sure, is Prakriti Kriyamanane Gune Karmani Sarvasha Hankar Vimudatma Kartamati Manyate. Prabhupada will quote that a lot. And that is, the spirit soul bewildered by the influence of false ego thinks himself the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by the three modes of material nature. And then Prabhupada explains in the purport that one that is who is bewildered by false ego, they take credit for everything they're doing. They take credit for everything they're doing, which is an interesting point. And he says this is a symptom of ignorance. So they don't know that their activities are being carried out by the modes of material nature. In other words, they're being controlled by the modes of material nature. And everything they're doing is actually being sanctioned by Krishna and, the demigods and all this movement of their body, how their mind's functioning, them speaking, etc., everything. So bewildered by false ego, they think, oh well, I'm taking the credit for this. Whereas you see Srila Prabhupada is exactly the opposite. He wasn't bewildered by false ego. He was established in real ego of the eternal servant of Krishna. And therefore Prabhupada would say all the time, it's not due to me that all this is happening, it's due to the mercy of my spiritual master. He would say that all the time, over and over and over again. Why not just to, it's not just some philosophical, mystical thing Prabhupada was saying. He felt like that. He actually felt like that. Gaura Babaji, he was a very, you could say, unique personality within our Sampradaya. Of course, all the acharyas are unique in their own way, but he was unique in the sense that he was people couldn't understand him, his activities. Like, for example, he would chant either, some say, in an outhouse or by an outhouse. Why? So the materialistic people wouldn't bother him. And so many things he would do that people couldn't understand. And you could say from an external point of view, he wasn't, some big preacher or something. He was just chanting Hare Krishna all day and night. He had said he would eat the mud from the Ganga, because his stomach he'd get hungry, and it'd be like a disturbance, sometimes the stomach disturbs. So he would just grab some mud and just eat it right from the Ganga. And then somehow or other, by eating that mud, you become blind. So he's becoming blind like that. But that's how he would, quite interesting. So one time, somebody asked Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur about his guru, Gaura Kishore Babaji. They said, "Oh, your guru, it doesn't seem like some big preacher. He's there in Navadvip, he's chanting Hare Krishna all the time, all day and night long. But you're out in Kolkata, you're traveling all over the world." As far as I remember, Ryan, do you remember how many disciples Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had? I think he had like 50,000 or something. It says it in the Vaibhav book. Yeah, some number I read, and I was like, oh my God, this is I just remember reading it. I mean, we could double check. Don't quote me on it or something, but we could double check. But I remember reading it. It was it seemed like a ridiculous number of people. Like a lot. Sometimes devotees quote this verse, which could be up for discussion, that a guru shouldn't accept too many disciples. I remember, but I reading that, I was like, oh my God, I was surprised how many disciples he accepted in India. But anyways, he was traveling and preaching, accepting so many disciples. And so they were asking him, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, about his guru. Then what? You're so different, you're so different. And then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, "Oh, actually, everything I'm doing is actually fueled by him. In other words, it's his mercy. Everything I'm doing." And he gave the example of a boat. So you see the boat, and it's moving nicely, right? But it's moving due to what? Due to the motor, whatever we call propeller. That's how it's moving. It's not just moving independent, it's moving. So he said, yes, I'm doing so many things, but it's the mercy of Gaura Kishore Babaji. So that's how all bona fide, authentic disciples see themselves, is that, okay, I may be doing some great things, maybe, hopefully, but as soon as I lose the mercy of my spiritual master, as soon as I displease, etc., then I can't do any of those things. I become helpless. I become useless. So we should always remember that. Or else we just fall into the same foolish category as any other Kali Yugite fool. Ahankar vimudama kartam iti manite. Bewildered by false ego. And yeah, this is, you could say this is what the material world's about, right? Everybody, people, they want to be the top dog, right? Or they want to be the boss, or the big man, right? Big man on campus, whatever you want to say. But this mood is actually complete opposite of Krishna consciousness. So if we come to Krishna consciousness with this mood, okay, fine, that's understandable. We're coming from the material world. But sometimes that mood can remain in our Krishna consciousness. In other words, it could be mixed. That everybody in the material world wants to be a big man, they're puffed up, they want to be the top dog, whatever you want to say, the boss. So if we bring that mood to Krishna consciousness and we don't get rid of it, but we falsely or wrongly engage it or in Krishna consciousness, trying to climb the ladder in ISKCON to whatever, GBC, Guru, Sannyasi, climbing the ladder all along with mundane ideas in mind or trying to be the boss, then it's against Krishna consciousness. It's not Krishna consciousness. It's something else. So yeah, we have to be careful. Last night there was this boy. He was about 10 years old, because I unfortunately didn't go on the Harinam, but because I wasn't aware of the Comic-Con, so I kind of already arranged something else at somebody else's house, like we have this kirtan there. So anyways, I was over there, and there's this boy, he was about 10 years old. His name was Ram. So I told him, and then there was this other old man, he's probably in his 80s, his name is Ram too. And then my name is Balarama, so I said, hey, we're like the Rams here, Balaram, Ram, And then I said, oh, who's the oldest here? I was just joking with the boy, because he's 10 years old. I said, oh, who's the oldest here? And the young boy said, oh, I'm the oldest, And I said, you don't look the oldest. He looks the oldest, because he's in his 80s. So then the boy said, no, I'm the oldest. And because I'm the oldest, that means you guys got to do what I say, That's what he was saying. So then, some time went on, and, we engaged in the kirtan, and it was a nice kirtan. And then it was getting towards the end of the program, like prasadam time, whatever. And then I walk over there, and he's sitting on a couch, and he's got his phone out or whatever, and he's playing video games, And it was, I don't know, some modern Tetris or whatever. Is that what it's called, Tetris? Tetris? Yeah, Tetris. Modern, kind of Tetris-looking game. So then I said, hey, Ram, what are you doing, And he said, well, I'm doing whatever I want. I'm the boss, That's what he said. So then later, during prasadam time, he got his little plate of prasadam with his little chickpeas and rice on it. And then I saw him go over to his mom, And I walked by, and he was asking his mom, oh, Mom, where should I sit, And she was kind of absorbed in her meal, and then he asked her a few times, hey, Mom, where should I sit? Where should I sit? And then I walked by him. I said, hey, you're the boss. You could sit wherever you want, Anyways, so yeah, whether it's that little boy or whether it's whoever it is, if they're trying to be the boss, then. That's usually the problem. Because if you have, how many people are in the world now? 7 billion or whatever? 7.5 billion. So if you get so many of the people, they're all trying to be in charge or trying to be number one, then, we wonder, or what to speak of countries trying to be number one. So that's why there's so many problems. So within our relationships, because, we're not impersonalists, we do have relationships with devotees, that humility factor is of utmost importance, because if that's not there, then if two people or a few people or a group of people, everybody's trying to be number one, then naturally there's going to be that fighting, in society. And that's why there's breakups of divorce amongst devotees as well, and friendships and so on. So yeah, the point is that no matter how much people would like to consider themselves to be in control, they're actually not in control. They're not in control. That they're being controlled. So, an ordinary person, they're controlled by the urges of their senses, and their mind, whatever the senses and mind dictate, they do. An alcoholic, he's in he's in or she's in, they're being controlled by the substance, and so on. It's like that in the material world, so everybody's being controlled. So the idea is that we want to be under the control of Krishna. We want to be under the control of Krishna. Why? Because if we're under the control of Krishna, then we're actually doing something uplifting for ourselves, for the world, and we're in our natural position. And as here it's saying in the verse in the purport that these material, these qualities, they could actually bewilder us. Beauty and education, austerity, wealth, all these things could bewilder us. So sometimes we may consider, oh, is this a curse or is this a blessing? Like one devotee, he was talking with Boyjan Prabhu in Houston, and he was one local devotee here, and he was telling him about his problems. And then Boyjan Prabhu just kind of thought about it sometimes. He said, you're intelligent. He said, and that's a problem. So it's like sometimes intelligence may get us in trouble. We're maybe too intelligent. We're overthinking things. Or wealth, for example, or so many things. Another devotee here, he was telling me that he was saying, oh yeah, I think my family's cursed, because he was saying how he has a really ugly men in his family, He was saying it's like a curse, but because not only he was explaining that they're ugly, but they're very heavily inclined to female association, so, but the problem is if the guy is ugly, then the females aren't inclined to him, So someone may say, oh, that's a curse, but also, what if the person's handsome and they're also inclined, heavily inclined to females, so that's also a curse, So these things, the point is that these things, education, wealth, austerity, beauty, youth, all these different things could actually get in the way of our Krishna consciousness. And in many cases they do. Like in the Bible, there's this fellow, it doesn't state his name, but he came to Jesus and he said, I'm engaging in religious life, I'm engaging in whatever, trying to serve God, but it's just, I'm not feeling anything, I'm just not feeling it, I'm not experiencing the nectar, whatever he said, I'm not feeling happy. So then Jesus said, okay, so what you should do is you should go home and you should give all your things away, and in essence, give your wealth away, and then join me, And then the guy he had a very depressed look on his face, and he just kind of walked away, He didn't follow. He didn't take his advice. And then Jesus he quoted that verse that people quote that it's easier for easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God. Because he's attached to his wealth, he can't, that takes up all of his attention. He can't get away from that. So whether we are educated or wealthy or whatever, young or this or that, all these things can be blinding. And even if we don't have these things, Prabhupada said, within Kali Yuga, we could be puffed up. Even if we don't have any of this. So whether we have them or not, we have to be careful. Because, the power of the false ego is just absolutely amazing, the influence. Like my mother, she's up in Oregon now, and she's, she got some job at some grocery store or something. And this guy, he's kind of a jerk, that's what she was saying, but he's a bit of a, he's not a boss, but he thinks he's the boss type of thing, Oh, yeah? Oh, control freak, okay, he's a control freak, yeah. So, this guy, what his business is, he stacks all the products on the wall, the boxes, and he does it very quick, he's very efficient, he's very good, and He stacks them up. And then what he does with the rest of his time is he kind of walks around and brags about how good he is. Like, oh man, I'm so good at stacking these boxes. And he literally goes around and tells people that. So in other words, he's puffed up about stacking boxes nicely. So the point is, people have to find something to latch onto, something to latch onto. Yeah, even Popper's proud of his penny. So yeah, these are things, but for a devotee, for aspiring for a devotee, these are things that have to be detected within ourselves and checked and controlled and ultimately eliminated. Because first, we're not going to, they're not going to be eliminated immediately, usually. But we could detect them. We could detect them, and we could check them, control them, and ultimately we could eliminate them. So that's very important that we do that within our spiritual lives. I dropped devotees off at the Comic-Con the other day, and there was this advertisement. It was an energy drink. It's called Monster. I don't know. I heard there's cases of people, they drink a few of those. And I don't know. Maybe that's made up. They die or something. Anyways, yeah, you drink a few, heart attack or something. So, anyways, Monster, right? And then one of their slogans was "Unleash the Beast." Unleash the Beast. So it's a lot of caffeine. So it was "Unleash the Beast." So I was thinking about that. It was like the inner beast. Just unleash it. Just let it. So yeah, you could say that these things, pride and anger, and it's like beasts actually. They're like, and if those things are within us, if we just unleash them, then it causes absolute havoc in our lives. And we become so blind that it says, we lose good sense and we cannot appreciate the glories of great personalities. In other words, we become so illusioned, by not controlling, checking, eliminating these inner beasts within us. So, we really have to focus on that. Srila Prabhupada had some disciples, and some of them became so offensive towards Prabhupada. we won't get into the details, but they became so offensive towards Prabhupada that in essence they rejected Prabhupada. And Prabhupada referred to him actually as he referred to one of them as a snake, as like a serpent. Due to his lack of good sense, due to his being proud, he couldn't appreciate the glories of Srila Prabhupada. So that could actually happen to anybody. They become so illusioned. And then it just creates havoc. Just like Daksha, he created absolute havoc for himself, for his daughter, for his associate. It was just a complete mess. So this is what's being explained throughout this chapter, that this is what is it called, a tale of, not a tale of woe, a cautionary tale. So we have to be intelligent to learn from these things and not have to experience them ourselves. We don't want to go through something like Daksha went through or something. So does anyone have any questions or comments? Yes, Jivada Prabhu. The whirlpool of... You know, it's funny because when you were saying all that, I was actually thinking about that. And then you just said it. Yeah. Yeah. He said the devotees had to be very careful not to fall into bad association, and you fall into the whirlpool of unfortunate situation. But not even, as Jyotirapa was saying, you don't even, it's not even knowingly, you just kind of, you're just there, wrong place, the wrong time type of thing. I mean, I was thinking about Granga Prem Prabhu, who's from China, and he was explained to me yesterday, he was not planning to become a devotee, and actually, as he was explaining, he was atheistic. He thought, God and religion is just kind of, what is it called, superstition, and just. But he went to learn English at a particular place, and who happened to be there? Some devotees. Narottam Ananda Prabhu, who's in Dallas now, Tamal Krishna Goswami disciple. He was there, and then they started communicating, and they gave Granga Prem Prabhu this book, Yoga for the 21st Century by Tamal Krishna Goswami. And Tamal Krishna Goswami wrote in the beginning of that book, this is for the Chinese population, so that they become devotees. And it worked. So he read the book, he was very impressed, and then Maharaj happened to be coming there, like a month later after he was in this whole English school, and then they met, and then, he became a devotee. But he wasn't planning that. So similarly, on the positive note, that could happen, but also on the negative note. So we have to, yes. Oh yeah, I remember him. Yeah, Prabhupada said that the process is simple, but the application is difficult. So, and also, in this book, this book by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he describes he's commenting on Nectar of Instruction, the Upadeshamrita from Rupa Goswami. And he's commenting on utsaha, enthusiasm. So then he's writing in such a way, and he says one who is not patient, he cannot perform any work. So then someone may say, hey, well, there's so many impatient people, so many passionate people. They're all working. So what is Bhaktivinoda Thakur referring to? What Bhaktivinoda Thakur is referring to is those who are impatient. They cannot work means they cannot perform any work on their heart. Means they cannot perform spiritual work. They're impatient. So impatient person, if they don't kick that quality of impatience, they actually can't, so the idea is, we do our best, and what else can we do? And the best may be different for everybody. So, I think we're supposed to end soon. Yeah. Well, Krishna takes care of that, right? He humbles us out. Like our friend Madhu Mangal, our old friend from South Africa, Brahmachari Madhu Mangal, he used to go on books and he'd ask people, "Hey, how did you become so humble?" He'd go up to, he was a very jolly person. "How did you become so humble?" That was one of his lines, And then people would say different stuff, and then one guy, I remember he was telling one guy, "Oh, how did you become so humble?" And the guy just kind of looked at him and said, "Oh, life, life made me humble." So, if anything, over time, that will just make us humble. I mean, of course, people even then, unfortunately, it could go on and on and on, but usually, it works. So Jamal had a question, but maybe we could discuss during breakfast, because time's going on. Right, Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.